listening to the House by the Video Store podcast.
There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk here.
We have such sights to show you.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Great Scott, keep away!
Welcome to the House by the Video Store podcast. I am your host, William, and joining me today will be Sean.
Hello.
And Derek.
Hello.
And in this episode, we'll be discussing the adaptation of the Stephen King short novel, Children of the Corn, which is a movie starring Linda Hamilton that was released in the 80s. And surprisingly, I haven't really followed this series that much. There was 8 sequels in it. There were 8 movies in the series. It's a lot of movies about children and corn.
That flew under the radar kind of, which I knew there was I knew it was a series and a franchise. But we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as horror franchises from the 80s now. This film.
Yeah, well, I mean, but you think about it, though, it's just like, I know everybody, I think most people have heard Children of the Corn, but honestly, I had no idea. I figured like 1 or 2 sequels, but it's just one of those franchises that when I hear that there's 8 of them, it's kind of surprising because I just didn't think there's that much interest in that movie to make 8 sequels to it.
And the only one that I'd ever really watched previous to rewatching it for this podcast was just the original 1984 film, and coincidentally, it's also the one that has the biggest names in it, because it seems like there was a lot of horror franchises where the first movie was kind of maybe some up and comers or stars that went on to become bigger stars later on, and then the sequels just became more and more people that weren't very noticeable or weren't very big stars. And but surprisingly, looking through these movies, Naomi Watts was in one of them, and she's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, she's no slouch at all.
She was in King Kong, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's funny because I think me and you were talking about this,
too, right?
Yeah,
I think me and you were talking about this the other day, William, about how you go back and you look at a lot of different horror movies, not even the top tier horror movies. Sometimes the sequels of them, you have big name actors. We talked about Texas Chainsaw 3 had, what's his name? Matthew McConaughey.
And Renee Zellweger.
And Renee Zellweger, which is just kind of funny to think they would have been in a movie like that.
Yeah. Jennifer Aniston and Leprechaun.
Yeah, Jennifer Aniston's in the original Leprechaun. I don't know. It's just funny. And Kevin Bacon was in one of the second Friday 13th. And
he's in the first one.
The first one?
Yeah. Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street. There's been plenty of other people that made their way through the horror genre as well. But we can also talk about the things we've been watching recently in any site news. So the video that came out this past week on the site was a video review of the movie Spring. And Sean, you can talk about that if you'd like to.
I'm glad you introduced that because I had forgot what video I did this week. I originally watched that back when it was released and was going to do something on it. It's a Draft House Films release. I've kind of been doing a lot of content on their stuff from the site because normally, at the very least, the films they pick are interesting or somewhat significant. But I like that movie a lot. It's the poster and everybody keeps referring to it as Linklater meets Lovecraft. So it's essentially a love story that also involves creature transformation. So it's a bit of a creature feature, but it definitely leans heavier on the love story aspect. And it's almost just I guess it's almost an excuse to explore how far somebody will go, how far somebody will, or how much somebody will put up with someone they love. So the girl, she obviously has, I guess, an affliction. So the guy who is in love with her, that's what the end of the film explores. The beginning of it kind of lingers on and it builds up the relationship and stuff. It's a good movie, but it's not. It's not going to satisfy horror fans or somebody looking for a creature feature where a lot of people get killed or some awesome deaths and stuff. It's very minimal on that part. So it's an odd combination because typically those films rely on that stuff. Having said that, they handle the film's handled really well overall, but it's definitely not one that if you're in the mood for a horror film, you should check out. But again, I like that film, but I was originally going to review it, and then I just kind of didn't have a whole lot to say about it. It was it's very interesting, but it grabbed me because it was different and interesting. And I did like the actors in it and everything. One dude is from the Evil Dead remake, Lou Taylor Pucci, and the girl, Nadia Hilker, I believe. I can't remember. I don't know what else she's from. But it's worth checking out, but just be warned before you go into it that it's not like a typical creature feature film.
Yeah. And actually, one bit of correction. Earlier we mentioned the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 as being the one that had Renee Zellweger.
4, right?
Yeah, so 3 had Viggo Mortensen in it and Ken Faree.
Yeah.
4 was A New Beginning that had McConaughey with mechanical kicking leg and Renee Zellweger,
Yeah.
a.k.a. changed her appearance completely to go into hiding. But Sean, you've covered a number of the Draft House movies, so...
Yeah, and it just happens to fall that way. I don't know why I'm drawn to those so much, but I do really like the stuff they put out, even if some of it isn't great, like The Visitor. It's at least interesting for me to watch. It's and they bring up, they kind of dig up these old forgotten films, but at the same time they release new stuff like Spring, Roar. Have you guys heard about that?
Yeah, that's one with the lions that almost killed the cast, wasn't it?
Yeah, the cast and crew and everything. Like essentially the filmmakers, I think, were living with the lions. And then they made a whole movie, ended up, hurting a tons of people and everything. So I'm excited to check that out. And they've got something newer too coming out as well. So they have a great mix of old and new. They've kind of been able to find some good stuff that's worth watching, if nothing else.
So one of the videos we should do pretty soon is you should take clips from the movie Roar and mix it with the Katy Perry song Roar to make a music video.
I think hopefully they have plenty of behind the scenes footage where which I guess people are getting maimed in the film as well.
Yeah.
But I'm sure behind the scenes footage will have some even more extended scenes.
Or just like the deleted scenes where you can't tell what's actually happening and what's in the film production. Probably the most brutal stuff would be like the stuff not in the film. Maybe 3 people lost their heads or...
Yeah,
maybe they can.
I'm really interested in checking that movie out.
Maybe they can find a way to insert Cecil the lion with CGI.
Just have him get cut in half.
I think it's Cecil.
Cecil.
I think we
Cesspool?
heard it on the radio on the way back from the movies.
Oh,
And we both assumed it was Cecil, but this was a British person, I think, talking. It was NPR, so they could be saying it incorrectly because they're British.
Yeah, instead of saying like the Mazda CRZ or the Honda CRZ, it's the Honda CRZ. So never know. But other things, I know Sean, me and you both been keeping up with Scream while Derek hasn't. So now it's an episode. Was that?
I finally have everything right with my TV, and internet, so I can actually start to follow it again.
Well, you're not missing out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the halfway point. Episode 5 just premiered and this past week. And
So there's 10 episodes in the season?
Yeah. So there's
Good.
10 episodes. We're on 5.
Good.
So through 5 episodes, do you think it is justified making a slasher series?
I don't think this show is justified. I think they've done some interesting things for sure. Again, this isn't we're not the audience for this show.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they've done some interesting things with it, and I've liked how they've kind of built it out. Like I would really like to see a map of kind of the storyline, and because now more things are being revealed, and there's more subplots, and people getting blackmailed and finding out people are getting revenge on people for certain things, and even if there's, I don't think there's going to be only one Scream killer, but even if there's a lot of people in the show doing some bad things now.
Yeah.
And that at least makes it interesting. So it even if they did want to have one killer, they're kind of building enough around this where there's enough things going on that is making it interesting and layered and not one-dimensional, even though some of the characters and actors are not great and are a little more than one-dimensional.
Well, and one thing too that I'll say is a big difference between this TV series and the movies In the movies, if it referenced something, it typically somehow worked that back into the plot of the movie or something that happened. It didn't just throw out, references Family Guy style, just like the fact that I've referenced this is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
On the TV series, they've thrown out a lot of stuff about current like horror TV shows.
Yes.
So there's been references, like specific references to Hannibal and like this was your design and stuff, referencing like the way that Will Graham like recreates like the murder scenes. So they've just referenced things without actually doing anything with it in the show.
That's a very good point.
So
yeah,
they-
and it's not satisfying at all. It's just there, and that's it.
And then, like the character that's kind of the Gail Weathers character is a podcaster. That I guess is Piper, and she's supposed to be kind of like the Sarah Koenig that did the Serial podcast about the like a real life murder trial.
Which is cool. That's a cool character to build, and it is very current, but at the same time, it doesn't seem cheesy or fake because it's based somewhat on a real person.
But like it's another one of those things where so far they just kind of reference that's what it is, but they haven't really made anything out of it.
Yeah, well, they kind of brought up some of her character, a backstory, in this episode. So I'm hoping that something leads to that. Not. I mean, we don't know anything, but potentially she could be some type of killer that is doing this that going from town to town to maybe like, you know what I mean? To drum
Booster
up
downloads.
Yeah, exactly. Like there could be some interesting stories from her on that end too. So
Maybe it'll just
let's hope there's some payoff, like you said. There's been a few payoffs, but there needs to be a lot.
Just turns out to be Gail Weathers is the killer.
It's actually Courtney Cox.
Yeah, Courtney Cox. I want my career back.
But like it's interesting watching this as like a slasher TV series. 'Cause I think there's been like a few other attempts to do that didn't really work out. But with this one, I don't think it's a spoiler at all. Just the last 2 episodes haven't had a kill in it.
Yeah.
So you've had 2 episodes. I mean, to be fair, if you're just breaking it down into like, if you're extrapolating the runtime of the movie into like a 10 episode TV series, there were stretches in the movies where no murders occurred, at least in the first one.
Yeah, and there's been what? Has there been? Well, there's been at least 3 current murders, correct?
And then one in the pilot there were 2, and then there were 2 more. So there's been 4 characters.
Yeah,
in
and
the
then there was a
present
flashback kills just for the satisfaction of seeing some kills.
Yeah,
there was also a flashback too. So that's a pretty decent body count halfway through, I think.
It's just, I think part of where it kind of fell flat for most people is that you're supposed to, like, I think it's the end of the first episode when the guy Noah, who's like the Randy character, goes on a monologue about how you're supposed to love all the characters like it's Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
At that point, they had done nothing to establish any of them as being likable. No. So that's more of something you would say maybe in like episode 3 or 4, maybe, if you actually care about the characters.
Yeah.
But like with that show, so Scream right now doing its 10 episode run, and then in the fall there'll be Scream Queens, Ash vs. Evil Dead, Walking Dead's coming back, Fear the Walking Dead's on, Hannibal's on right now, ending out its run that may never come back or may come back in a limited fashion. Then I believe that there was a TV series that the director of It Follows, David Robert Mitchell, was working on that seemed kind of horror-ish. And then I believe there was a couple of series that Wes Craven was involved with. So there'll be a lot of horror on TV. It'll just be interesting to see how they adapt those different elements to TV.
Yeah, I think I'll watch the pilot of Scream Queens. What about you guys?
I mean, I'll check it out. I mean, because like American
I don't
Horror
expect that one to
Story-
be even as good as Scream, to be honest.
Like, it has a good cast, but American Horror Story, like, if they stick to the best elements of, like, their kind of creative tendencies, Ryan Murphy and that creative team, if they kind of stick to their strengths and not their weaknesses, it could be okay. But if it's, like, super pulpy Glee with a bunch of garbage...
It seems very heavy on the humor side, and it's their sense of humor, which doesn't appeal to me that much from Glee. And from the previews so far, it seems like, they're blending those 2 shows together almost. And that's all the humor from the commercials and trailers have been a huge turnoff for me.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed like the flip side, like what we've seen of Ash vs. Evil Dead just makes me super, super pumped to see that.
Yeah.
because even the trailers for that had good timing and editing and conveyed a sense of playfulness.
I think it's the original editor for Army of Darkness is also editing the pilot. So you have
Nice.
Sam Raimi directing, him editing, and I think maybe I can't remember who was scoring. I think they've released who's scoring it too. But it's that makes me really excited. But at the same time, I'm so hopeful that not the rest of the series isn't a letdown.
Yeah.
It's
because
you've got the A-team there on that pilot, and then can only go down from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can almost kind of maybe have the Walking Dead syndrome because, the original pilot for Walking Dead was, awesome. And then it kind of went downhill as the seasons went on. But I think just The Evil Dead, I think Bruce Campbell, I think he'll be able to pull it himself, because you think about, in most of the movies, he's by himself anyway. So if he can just be, I think he'll be entertained regardless of what happens. It might not be might not be the best show out there, but I think even with him on it, it would still be somewhat entertaining with him doing stuff.
And one thing too that I think bodes well in its favor is since it's half-hour episodes. One of the reasons they specifically did that was they could trim the fat and not spend time on unnecessary subplots and things that don't make sense. Yeah. And since they're on a premium cable channel, they don't really have any restrictions on what can be shown.
And there won't
they
be
all
commercials.
They all obviously really care about this, so I think it's going to be Sam Raimi's probably going to be heavily involved with this. Hopefully,
hopefully it's not just a pure money grab type thing.
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Yeah, because if they wanted to do a money grab, they could just make try to make a sequel to the remake or something like that. Speaking of Sam Raimi, actually, I have the El Rey Network now, the Robert Rodriguez channel, and they've actually had some pretty cool movies on there lately. This past week, they had a Sam Raimi thing where they had multiple movies from him. That's awesome. I rewatched Darkman for the first time in a while. And it's easy to forget, Darkman was an original character that Sam Raimi came up with because he couldn't get the rights to Batman because they already made a Batman movie. And I think it was what was the one that Alec Baldwin was in? The Shadow?
Yeah, The Shadow.
He tried to get the rights to Batman and The Shadow, and he couldn't. So then he made up Darkman. And then, this is in the, early 90s. Actually had an original superhero film be somewhat successful and make enough money that it spawned a couple of sequels. And
do you think that alone got him, not alone, but you think if he would not have made Darkman, he would have not have got Spider-Man?
It's kind of hard to know, because I think he had some other movies that were successful. That one Western, the Quick and the Dead or whatever. And
I always forget that he directed that.
He did The Gift also, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and he had done a lot of TV stuff. He had, I don't know how many episodes he directed of anything, but he was heavily involved and creatively with the Hercules and Xena series.
Yeah.
So he, the Evil Dead.
That's true. That could have helped him as well. His experience with that.
So he had the geek cred or the movie fan cred going into those movies, and they had seen what he could do on a limited budget. But but that Darkman, if you haven't checked it out or if you haven't watched a long time, it's still pretty fun. And it's Liam Neeson in an action movie back before he was in his 50s and 60s.
20 years ago at 25.
Yeah, and he hasn't really changed all that much in how he looks. And then it's got Frances McDormand in it.
Yeah, she was she was roommates with Raimi, I think, in the early 90s because he was roommates with the Coen brothers, and they were all living together.
And he had actually he had wanted her to be in the movie because he had known her through those connections. But then after they started filming it, they had a lot of disagreements and things. And he's like, well, maybe I didn't know her as well as I thought I did.
I feel like I've heard she's hard to work with before.
Yeah.
So we will not be hiring her for any of our videos.
Yeah, we have the option to do that. One other big piece.
I haven't watched that movie since high school. Do you have? It was on El Rey, so you don't have a copy of that, do you?
I actually have an HD DVD of it.
All right.
I have nothing.
DVD.
I have nothing that can play it.
Well, the bad thing is
HD DVD player.
Well, we had that one. They had your laptop, but it doesn't play the HD DVDs anymore. It still exists.
But another piece of big news we haven't mentioned yet was that this past Friday, Rowdy Roddy Piper passed away. of wrestling fame. He was in the WWF at the time, and
The way you said that made it sound like wrestling fame is what killed him.
no,
Of wrestling fame.
Yeah,
No,
he passed away of
Those
wrestling
wrestlers
fame.
don't live long, man. It could have been.
well, it was
What was
heart-
the reason?
Cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he passed away. Most people, like I said, would know him from wrestling or some of the movies and TV and things he's done. The most famous movie he was in was They Live, where him and Keith David had like the 10-minute fight in the alley.
So
It's
good.
like a classic fight scene that plays out somewhat realistically compared to most big action movies.
Yeah, because at one point they just get tired.
And he has like one of the most iconic movie lines of all time.
Oh yeah.
Like, I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Stolen from Duke Nukem. Or not stolen from Duke Nukem. Stole it from that. Yeah, I said it to somebody I was working with on Friday. Well, I mentioned it to somebody Friday I was working with, and they're 24, and they were like, "No, never heard that line." Like, first of all, they hadn't heard of Roddy Piper or the movie, and then they never heard of that line. I was like, okay, well, I guess it hasn't permeated culture like I thought it did.
Yeah, well, but it's definitely sad to see Roddy Piper go. He was one of the more interesting personalities. And two, did somebody else watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Only certain episodes. I haven't went through the series or anything.
Because he was on an episode of there where he was living like in his car and trash and stuff. So he seemed
Was
like
he playing himself?
maybe I don't. He was gonna wrestle, but then I think he backed out, and they had to wrestle. But he's definitely gonna be missed. Seemed like a cool guy. I never met him, but he definitely left a big impact on a lot of people who liked horror movies and watched
I
wrestling.
saw a lot of people on my Facebook page post pictures of them and him at like
So-
horror conventions and stuff.
You just described like Corey. You left a huge impact on Corey.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like recently there's been a lot of people in the horror world passing away, or people that had connections to it.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll calm down for a little while, and we don't have to report any passings.
Yeah.
See, but back to movies and things. Was there anything else that anyone watched that we want to talk about?
I don't think there was anything super relevant for me because I spent this week working on that video. Watched a little bit of Wet Hot TV show. Saw Mission Impossible. That movie was awesome.
Yeah, I really want to see that.
Yeah, it was really good. Simon Pegg has a pretty big role, and it's it's interesting to see his role grow since that third one. Whenever J.J. Abrams got him on board, and it's like, damn, thanks to J.J. Abrams, he's probably got a pretty nice paycheck every time one of these came out, and it's probably just increased as each movie is made.
Yeah.
Well, he's came a long way since Shaun of the Dead, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Run, Fat Boy Run. You might as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The David Schwimmer directed. What's funny is like that's definitely like a British Fat Boy Run, because in America, Simon Pegg with the beer belly is not Run, Fat Boy Run.
That's just like
yeah,
run
that was always
av-
odd about that movie.
Run average person run.
Did you guys see Big Nothing? David Schwimmer starred in it with Simon Pegg before that film.
No.
It was about them, I think, trying to essentially pull off some crime. I don't know if it was blackmail or what. It was all right. It wasn't bad. But it was just funny seeing him and David Schwimmer act opposite of each other.
Oh, David Schwimmer.
Is that Ross?
Yes.
Yeah, Ross.
Ah, David Schwimmer.
David Schwimmer was also awesome on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
If I know David Schwimmer, you know Jennifer Aniston.
Like, I was like, it would have been cool in the Scream series, like in the first three movies, at some point, if David Schwimmer had been like a character that got brutally murdered or something.
Yeah.
Oh, they should have murdered him in
Joey.
every movie. I kind of like Joey. Turns out he can like drive race cars, so he's not too bad. But David Schwimmer. Always remember from that Harrison Ford movie, was it 7 Days? I don't know, where they got stranded on an island or something.
Yeah.
I hate that movie. Not Castaway.
All right, so we can go ahead and move into the discussion of Children of the Corn then.
Yay.
And since this is a film from 1984 that's been around for forever, we're just, spoilers throughout. So
And really, if you haven't seen it and you listen to spoilers, you're not really ruining much for yourself.
yeah, I
Nah.
mean, it's kind of exactly what you'd expect. So based on the reaction everyone's had to this, I assume we can all say that not big fans.
No, not huge fans. Also, it's on Netflix. Anybody that wants to watch it.
It's not one of the, in my opinion, it's not a transcendent Stephen King story. Like Pet Cemetery, like while it's like, I like the movie, the original wasn't bad, but this one just like, to me, it's like, I've watched Children of the Corn 1 and that's all I want to watch.
So,
Yeah.
William, you want to give a synopsis for this?
Yes, so let me pull up the
People
old...
that don't know, what I want to know, which I've tried to look, I've just like glanced for a second, is what Stephen King's reaction is to this film. Because, he was very, I guess, disappointed in the way Stanley Kubrick handled The Shining. So I wonder if he was, and Children of the Corn, this is reading the plot for the short story that was published in Penthouse originally. It's much, elements of it that are much different than the film.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, I
it's a
read
little
it.
darker, more
Yeah, it's
grim.
much darker.
So I don't see him being happy with the movie either, especially considering just how it turned out.
Yeah, so the synopsis is, a young couple is trapped in a remote town where a dangerous religious cult of children believe everyone over the age of 18 must be killed. And
Which is it's a great little setup, I think.
I still like plausibility, like with horror movies. We talked before about like the killers in movies, like could they have really done it? I don't really think that a town of children could kill every single adult in the town.
Well, but this town was like the size of Nilbog, so you had like 7 people in it.
That's what I kept thinking of Troll 2 by watching this.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it was like the
one
same
step
town.
up.
Because like in one scene in the movie, they're like, "There's nobody here for miles," and in the background you can see like a town, similar to that. So it's like, come on, guys.
Well,
But
go ahead.
oh, and we forgot to mention that the brilliant plot was the children poisoned the coffee and killed most of the adults that way in like the cafe, I guess. And then they all pulled out like scythes and knives and swords and other like blunt objects and beat a dude to death and like.
Well, then apparently, like when they were on the phone with the kids, Job and Sarah's mom, like I guess the dad was on the phone with the mom, and then you could hear her being murdered too. So I guess they went like door to door to every single house and killed the adults.
So I'm assuming that
They
this
have a lot
town.
of kids for that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like you must have had a town of like 17 adults, and they all just must have been the Duggars and just had like 19 kids apiece.
this is a
19,
cautionary tale.
Yeah.
19 murderers and counting.
And then, was it Nikolai?
Malachi.
Malachi, Moonface Boy reminds me.
Outlanders.
Yeah, oh my
screaming
God.
that.
I hated him. Like,
We have your woman. See, like
He was from the Burbs too.
oh, he was, wasn't he? Yeah. He was the little weird troll looking guy. Yeah, that's right.
then like Sarah Connor should have just fucked up all the kids.
Yeah, if it had been I can see this movie's a similar plot to Terminator, so
That
she
sounds
probably
like a nice fan edit, William.
Well,
When they like do those edits for RoboCop versus Terminator, you're gonna need a Sarah Connor versus Children of the Corn.
Well, we should, like, I don't know if you mentioned, Linda Hamilton is in this film.
Yeah.
So she's kind of the big name in it. And, their lead actor is Peter Horton. And he is Bert.
Good old
Burt
Pete.
Macklin.
And, like, I think me and Derek had mentioned this before. So have you ever seen Step Brothers?
Yes.
The Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly comedy. Like, the kids bully him and beat him up. So
Make
they
him
could-
eat white dog poop.
Yeah. So there's a scene at the end where they just go to the playground and beat the shit out of all the kids.
Yeah.
Like, this movie could have used a scene like that.
Yeah, they fly in a helicopter, get off, and just beat the. They even beat the children with other bodies of children. And it's
Well-
like should have happened in this movie.
William, this is the thing. This is probably the angle that I was thinking you would have an issue with, because I was thinking about it. That this town would fly under the radar that long.
Yeah.
From this state, just like not collecting state taxes. You know what I mean? Just
Well,
basic infrastructure. and everything.
Census reporting. So what do they do when the Census Bureau takers come to the door?
They all dead. Like,
Yeah.
They do. They get on somebody's shoulders and put a big trench coat on and the hat. Like, well, my wife's at the store.
well, there's two things. Maybe it became unincorporated territory and it was just in limbo, so they weren't messing with it. Or, according to the movie, it wasn't on the map. So it's kind of like Nilbog, you know.
But like, I think
This is essentially Troll 2.
I think the army should have came in at the end and wiped out all.
Well, it'd be nice if it
It's
could,
like it's a zombie. The way they handle every zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, but with drones in the 80s, not explain how that happened.
Yeah, but if you put aside the complete lack of plausibility with children being able to kill all the adults and then somehow being able to feed and clothe themselves and maintain
Well,
order.
okay, they weren't infants. They were like teenagers,
But
so
if you
it's
go-
plausible that they have enough farming acumen to, live.
Have you ever been to like an amusement park where everyone who works there is 16? Would you want to go to a
Okay.
town ran by those people?
No, because it would just be a disgusting cesspile place. But like, these kids are a little bit different. You got redheaded moonface boy killing people, and one kid packed his shit and got his throat slit and ran over. So you got that to look forward to.
That was pretty cool. I mean, that was like, for this time, I think that was for a mainstream film. First of all, having a kid murdered that way,
brutally,
and then he didn't get killed, I guess, but they showed him, he obviously got something sliced up in the cornfields. Then they run him over with a car and kill him. Yeah. Like, that's an awesome way to handle him. Also, the kid just stayed in the trunk the whole movie too, right?
Yeah.
Like, like 75% of the movie, I'm like, that kid's still in the trunk. And you know what I mean?
So if he wasn't dead after they ran him over, he definitely died in the trunk from like asphyxiation or,
He was definitely dead because Bert was going to start his internship as doctor or nurse or something.
Okay, look, how many times have we seen horror
several
movies?
times. He was obviously very proud of being a doctor.
to the guy that's about to be a doctor. Come on. But how many times in horror movies have you seen where people you thought were dead and should have died weren't? So the kid probably is alive.
But not to completely make this just a shit fest. The movie did have we mentioned like the atmosphere, like the set dressing, all that is just kind of like a level up from Troll 2, kind of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it still evokes kind of like it's those towns.
The fact that we're comparing it to Troll 2 is not really a service to the movie.
But at least
that is true.
At least
it has a lot of parallels.
In this movie, though, at least there's a slight bit of plausibility to the fact that this was a town of, let's just say, a few hundred people. So they had just that one row of buildings, and that was it in the entire town.
Yeah.
And then, so that makes somewhat sense towards opposed to Nilbog. It's like a town of 25. And they have like an entire block of there's no way they needed that many storefronts. And that many
another
dudes.
comparison I was thinking during the movie is the use of corn in Troll 2. Could you explain that, William? Since you're so familiar with that film.
He's our resident Troll 2.
Well, in Troll 2, it's also unclear if it's a sex crime or not, because it's never really disclosed what the age of the young boys are in Troll 2, but there's a witch, I don't remember what her name is because it's really long, it's like something Esmeralda, blah, 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 of ancient
Griselda.
druid origins, and it's like this lady who kind of seems like she's in like an elementary school play, like helping the children along, like that level of acting, and she's a witch. And then there's one of the mulleted friends of, so was it Elliot?
Yeah, but they went to Nilbog to find, unattached females, correct?
Yeah, so,
that's the actual word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, just the basic plot of Troll.
Cruising.
So, Troll 2, there's a family that is going to go visit or do a house swap with a family from Nilbog, which is like a super small town with like a population of 25. And then the girl, her boyfriend, it's really weird because like their relationship, she's like, you spend all of your time with your boys. And then she knees her boyfriend in the balls, and he's like, "What are you trying to do? Turn me into a homo?" She's like, "It wouldn't be very hard." Like, I don't think they understand how all this works. Just kneeing someone in their balls doesn't change their sexual orientation.
Oh no, I've turned gay
That's the
now.
precedent for that entire film. The logic's into it.
Yeah, that's the logic.
Yeah, so the girl Holly, her boyfriend, Elliot and his friends, all like, so they go on the trip, and Elliot's supposed to go with them, and he doesn't, and he rents an RV or takes an RV with his friends and convinces them to go to Nilbog to meet unattached females. And then they go there, and one of them actually does hook up with the witch, who's probably like in her 30s or 40s or something, definitely not young. And she like comes out of the TV, kind of like this guy's watching TV, and she shows up on the TV instead of being all like made up with like her lips looking like cracked makeup stuff. She
needs some lip chap.
They gust her up and try to make her look sexy, and then she comes in the trailer and pulls out a corn cob and lays on top of them, and then they eat the opposite side of the corn from the corn cob, and then popcorn starts flying everywhere, and then the RV fills up with popcorn, and then like you see like she's gone and the guy's just in there, and then he blows popcorn out of his mouth.
And he's like, no more popcorn. And then we never hear about what happens to him ever again.
It's like, I mean, he definitely didn't die because there wasn't enough popcorn in there. Even if you were in a trailer that got full of popcorn to the top of the roof,
well,
you would not die because you could still breathe.
Now, but think about this though. Could it have been stupid logic that dictated that since he ate that corn from her, he turned into the goop stuff?
I mean, maybe, but
maybe.
I mean, I just think she fucked him and then left, and then he was just like, "Oh boy."
I think we need to save some of this for a Troll 2 podcast.
Well,
Yeah, but
anyway,
to bring it
this
back-
is the same level of corn obsession this film has as well.
Yeah.
There's like corn stuck in everything, corn crosses.
Yeah, like they found the kids. The kid he gets throat. The little kid tries to run away. Nikolai or Mike, whatever his name is. Malachi slits the kid's throat and leaves the suitcase in the cornfield. Bert finds it covered in blood, and then they like open it up and they find a corn husk doll in there too, don't they?
I mean, to be fair, it's called Children of the Corn. So.
Yeah. Maybe that's all they ate. You figure they. But I think one of the worst scenes in the movie is like the part where Bert's like in the town. They're doing some type of weird ritual and he breaks it up, and then he gets stabbed, and they start chasing through the town. And he just runs into like a traffic, like just like a street light, and all the people surround him. It's like you got most of them by like 2 foot. You know, just get your fist out and just run in a circle and just start punching all of them.
Yeah, like Batman, or the TV series from the 60s. Bow, bam, kick.
Yeah, so essentially it's this chase scene. He stops them in the middle of the street. They surround him. Nothing is resolved. There's nothing revealed plot-wise. And then all of a sudden he gets away from them and starts running again.
Oh, because...
And they just continue the scene. It is such a waste of time.
Oh, because Macaulay like, Outlander, and it distracts him, and then he pushes the kid away, runs off.
But like, back to the point I was making a long time before I talked about Troll 2, witch corn sex, is that like the movie does at least have like a feeling of like a small town from like that era. I mean, I wasn't alive in 84. I was born in 85, but I remember going through like little podunk towns in the early 90s that were kind of similar to that, where there wasn't much to them. And
hey, in my job, I go through those towns still all the time. And some of these towns have no cell phone service. I was at one just like 2 weeks ago, no cell phone service. And I talked to some police officers. They said whenever anybody has to go down there, they work for the county. They said there's no radio. There's no radio connections either. There's literally no connection when you're down there unless you had like some type of internet or satellite, technology.
Yeah.
So these towns do exist.
So it's an idea kind of like that. Like the movie kind of gives you a feeling that even if the town's a bit big for it to be what this movie is, it at least gives you somewhat of a feeling. And at the end, there are some creepy elements that are kind of all just subtext. So Isaac was the like kid preacher that convinced all the kids to turn on their parents and kill them all. And he's kind of the ringleader. And then they were going to sacrifice Vicky to their, how was it? The guy, he who walks behind the cornrows or something.
Yeah.
Or he who walks behind the rows. And like, so he's a preacher, but then like, it's not really god or anything like that he is working for. It seems more to be like a demonic entity. And I think we just, like Sean mentioned it, like just the premise alone of being kids killing adults, a lot of the action in it's kind of laughable. Like,
Yeah.
I think I was talking to Derek earlier. I was like, Malachi, like, I don't know how tall he was, but he couldn't have weighed more than like 140 pounds. Like, just throw him. Or just take a porno mag and throw it on the ground. They'd be like,
Oh, dude.
Yeah, they're the age they just get infatuated.
But then,
with that.
it's kind of implied that like Isaac doesn't allow any music or drawing or anything that is artful, and the characters of Job and Sarah were kids who did not want their parents to be murdered and had no part in all the patricide, and they actually helped the main characters, Bert and Vicky, by helping them find like safe places and filling them in what's happening. But like the girl that stabs Bert, she's very annoying. And
Who was that? Oh, yes. Yeah.
and she shows up again at the end.
Yeah. Which is, the end of this movie is so weird and anticlimactic. Like, you know, they go to the car to look for the map, which the dead body's still in the trunk, I assume, the kid.
Yeah.
That they just don't even, you know, it's just, I guess they're over kids at that point, and they're like, you know, but, you know, they get the map. She comes out with a knife, knocks her out cold, as he puts it. Wow, she's out cold. And then they start to walk away. There's no music. You literally just hear crickets chirping or just something. And it's just dead silence, and it says "the end."
Yeah, and they have to walk 19
and then a few moments
miles.
later, music starts.
And they have to walk 19 miles to the nearest town, which, I mean, it's not an insurmountable distance. I mean, sure you could do that and just take a while.
You've probably done that drunk before, huh?
So I can't remember. Did anything bad happen to the car where they couldn't drive it?
Yeah, I think it'd been messed up by the kids.
The kids stuck corn all in it, remember?
So there you
That's
go.
literally what happened.
So it's like Troll 2 again.
We would have gotten away if it wasn't for you kids and your corn.
Something else interesting, I was looking up stuff about the film on Wikipedia. So what was his name? He Who Walks Behind the Rose or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said that in The Stand, and he apparently supposedly appeared in other Stephen King films or books, sorry. And it's implied to be this character called Randall Flagg, who has showed up in several different Stephen King books. I guess as somebody kind of like essentially almost like an evil force, almost like a Satan. So that is kind of interesting. Stephen King has built a through line through some of his books, but unfortunately it just did not work out in this film. And also too, you know, this was a precursor to Tremors. I feel like they might have developed Tremor tech in this film because it looks like they were going through the cornfields several times.
Yeah, I mean, and two, like, Stephen King has been in, you know, the movie world. There's been a ton of movies with his name. He's not the director for, you know, these movies.
Yeah.
He's just the writer of the stories. And some of the adaptations kind of vary on who's adapting them. Like you mentioned earlier, The Shining is, you know, at least from my perspective, it's my favorite movie that was ever based on one of his works. Mm-hmm. And it's one that varied a lot from the text because of, you know, Stanley Kubrick. And so it's like, how much of Stephen King, like, he's a great writer. Nobody will, you know, argue to the contrary. But like a lot of his movies, if you watch movies based on his books now, a lot of them don't really hold up. I mean, a lot of it's the filmmaking and the actors and stuff they chose for him. But
yeah.
Well, another thing too is, like, if you think about it, when was the last time Stephen King had a major movie come out, like a movie that actually went out to the theaters and was a success?
Well, I think there's been more recent than this, but Frank Darabont's The Mist.
yeah.
It wasn't a huge financial success, but that was a theatrical release film, and that was a really good movie.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. And Tom Jane.
I mean, too, like, so some of the things that Stephen King's been involved with, you know, like Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, stuff like that have been very, very, very good. So he has had some adaptations that are great. You know, Carrie, I think, was a great adaptation of his work.
Which is also dated now, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Well,
it's got the Sweat Hog, John Travolta.
Well, they also did a remake not too long. I don't know if it was a theatrical release or
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Chloe.
And then because at the same time they had a Sci-Fi Channel original release.
Yeah.
Like right around the same time. I don't know how much we all value the Sci-Fi Channel.
And then they've like he's had a lot of his movies remade that like or the movies based on his books remade into TV series. So there was a Children of the Corn TV movie in 2009. Was it Sci-Fi or USA or somebody that did a The Shining with the guy from Wings?
Yeah, that was. I don't think it was Sci-Fi. I think it was before Sci-Fi when that was made, and that's the version Stephen King prefers. Yeah, which I want to watch it, but at the same time, like I just love the original version of The Shining so much.
I've never read The Shining, but the original movie, like one of the scenes that haunted me the most as a kid was the bathtub scene.
Yeah.
You know, he walks in there and you have like the naked, sexy lady, and then he starts to make out there, and she's a fat, like rotting lady. I remember for like years, like I was afraid to go in the bathroom and look at the tub because of that. You know, like you just not look in the tub because of that. That like ruined me. And then also, you also had the weird like animal sex people dressed up thing going on.
It's like Fozzie Bear kind of
furries.
Like that movie just had some scenes that definitely stuck with me.
Yeah,
I've never read the book, but
I love Stanley Kubrick. I absolutely love that film, and that's one that I haven't done anything on yet because it's one of those movies I love so much. Some of these films that I haven't done stuff on that I love is because I'm afraid of not doing them justice or trying to figure out the right angle, you know, to do something kind of great on them. And that's one film I'm like, oh, it's so good. I don't know what I can say about it or, you know what I mean, do with it to serve it justice.
Well, I think out of the Stephen King, like especially in the 80s, I'd have to look because some of these probably are in the 80s. But, you know, you had your Pet Cemetery. Now, The Shining was in 77, right? I think Shining was late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s.
I was thinking. You know, but you look at like, because there was like a 10, 15 year span where it was like Stephen King had just a lot of books.
Shining was 1980. So
1980, okay. So that was right in the 80s. So you had like that. You had Children of the Corn. You had
Dead Zone.
Pretty sure you had the Dead Zone. You had Pet Cemetery. You had a couple Cujo. You had a lot of like the 80s movies where Stephen King was kind of, you know, the king of that. And I feel like Children of the Corn's probably toward the bottom.
Maximum Overdrive.
yeah, I like Maximum Overdrive. It's been a while since I've seen it, but
The
that's an enjoyable
Lumineers
film as goofy as it is. Yeah, that movie was really good too.
Fire Stata.
Childhood.
The Lumineers was an interesting concept. If anybody's ever, the Langoliers. I don't know why I've seen the Lumineers. Yeah, the Langoliers. If anybody's ever seen that, or it was an interesting concept. But like, I think the movie. I remember because I went through a Stephen King movie phase when I was younger, and I watched that one and Thinner. Have y'all ever seen Thinner?
No, but I remember.
Yeah, the premise
of it on TV, but
the premise of Thinner is this fat like attorney is getting a blowjob from his wife while he's driving down the road, and he runs over a gypsy girl, and they put a curse on him to make him turn thin when he eats his pie. They give him the curse and he becomes thin, and he's going to become thin until he dies. Yeah, that's right.
And then after he hires like the mob guy to do all this stuff, eventually they reverse the curse. They take the curse and put it in a pie, and whoever eats the pie will then get the curse.
And his wife and daughter eat it, and they die. Yeah.
Spoilers.
Oh well,
Yeah.
that's like a bottom tier. You know, I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. Christine was directed by John Carpenter, and that was in 1983. So.
Yeah,
You know,
Christine. That's a really good movie. Yeah.
Then like I said, I really liked Dead Zone. That was good. And then he's done a ton.
Which
of
one?
stuff.
The Dead Zone with Christopher Walken or Dead Zone with the dude from Edward Scissorhands?
The one with Christopher Walken. And that was terrible. That was terrible.
Yeah, we're just edit that out.
Yeah. So he's been in Stand By Me. So I think a lot of his best work was his non-horror stuff. Mm-hmm. Or at least the ones that were most critically well received, that were closest to his vision.
Well, another movie too is It.
Yeah.
And here's the thing though about It. If anybody's ever watched it, the first like 3/4 of the film are good. And then the end is, like I said, I've never read the book, but just the movie just got so weak, it just made it not as scary as it was. Like, just the way it ended was just so stupid for me, and it lost me completely. You know,
I was I was really excited that oh god, what's his name?
Cary Fukunaga.
Yeah, that he was going to direct that film until he backed out or whatever. But I was super excited for that.
Yeah, and then Stephen King was credited as title only for The Lawnmower Man. So how you do that? I don't.
He probably got a pretty good paycheck for it too.
The Lawnmower. I kind of slightly remember that, but I have no idea what it's about. I always kind of assumed it was the Rain Man when I was younger, but
So-
it was
Definitely not the Rain Man.
Yeah, I know, but you see like the stuff when you're younger. I always thought it was that movie, and it is not.
So and he too like wrote stories and he was in Creepshow, and I think he wrote some stories for the Tales from the Dark Side movie. So you know,
Yeah, he worked with George Romero, I think, to write that, didn't he?
yeah.
I even
so-
forgot about the Creep Show.
Yeah, because it was George Romero directing and him writing, I believe.
I mean, in his filmography, he's had a ton of hits, and he was one of the biggest names in horror for a while. With we mentioned earlier, like younger audiences not knowing the Roddy Piper line from They Live, here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. Like, I wonder how much sway Stephen King's name holds on movies today.
Yeah.
With the current horror audience.
It'd be the same as like a John Carpenter.
Yeah.
If John Carpenter, because their heyday, Stephen King's heyday for most people in the horror world was from like early 80s to probably mid to late 90s, but probably more like 80s to 1990-ish. And then after that, you had all the top tier movies came out, and then you had the sequels after that. So I would say most people, because I'm 25, so I would say most people probably a few years younger than me, he doesn't hold much to them.
Well, what's the name of his new show that's coming out? That's Dark Tower. They've been talking about it forever. That could be, and Under the Dome, that was him also.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. So his name's still out there, but yeah. And two, I feel like there's so many other people that are able to saturate media culture, especially with YouTube stars and all this other stuff. I think there's different things pulling people's attention, younger people's attention now. When we were younger, like there was just TV and movies.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all you heard, as far as any type of visual media. So it's a lot easier to just him to permeate culture that way.
Not to get too off track, but so I'm 29, and I keep up on all the trends. I'm always up on social media and Twitter and all that stuff, and following all the latest trends. But the other night, me and some of my friends watched a video that was like the best vines of July. I just don't get what people think is funny. It's the same joke, like, but what are those? And they point at somebody's shoes. And it's just like all this stuff that, if that's how people handle it. And then like the YouTube stuff. So there are people now who are YouTubers that are making movies. And like, to be fair, we make videos on YouTubes, and we would love the YouTubes. We make videos on
where you
Yeah, you sound very young and
we
hip
make
there.
videos on the YouTube.
And then when you get on the Facebook and post them, right?
So we make videos on YouTube, and I don't really think we're YouTubers per se. We're not, although we do have a video blog, we're not vloggers. We're like, hey guys, guess what I did today? I met this cute chick. We went to Qdoba, and she got the craft too. And I was like, what?
I feel like though in Louisville, like Chipotle's taken over the Qdoba because like Qdoba's not. Qdoba didn't seem like as cool as it was like I don't know when I was like 18. Now I think people go to Chipotle. I don't know.
Well,
Chipotle sucks because they don't have queso.
You got those Chipotle fans. My friend and I, we went to go eat after the movies, and they, she's like, "Oh, you guys pick," and I said, "Okay, well, Cheddar's," and then afterwards, she said, "You know what? I smiled after you said that because I really wanted Chipotle." And she eats it all the time.
Like the main issue with Chipotle is like you're supposed to be a Mexican restaurant, whatever. You don't have queso.
Yeah, that's
what's
a
up with
deal breaker
that?
for me, based on principle alone.
Yeah, like Qdoba's jalapeno bacon queso, it's really good. So Qdoba should definitely give us some type of ad contract and give us some money.
yeah, we would advertise the hell out of some Qdoba.
because I eat
At
Qdoba
least just
a
give
lot.
us like a card to get a free meal a week.
Yeah, and
We would plug it every week.
Yeah, and we would eat it while we're podcasting.
But
just everybody get nachos, and that way it'd be a really good experience for everybody.
But back to the discussion about the YouTube vloggers getting movies and
I thought
stuff.
you were going to say back to Children of the Corn. No, not there yet.
No, that was like
ahead,
15
sorry.
minutes ago.
And it's just like, it feels to me kind of like the Disney Channel stuff. Like
Yes.
where they just take like, this is the High School Musical sub movie, and here you go. Like, I just don't know. Like, I think there are people trying to do legitimate work on YouTube who would love to get funding to make movies, but instead it's the tweens or teens who get millions of subscribers when they talk about, I don't know what they talk about, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
And to be fair though, that's the audience of who's watching YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So that's why those
Yeah.
kids are becoming popular. It's,
Well,
I mean,
just
we
funny,
watch
like-
it, but they stay on it all the time.
But it's just funny because I'm trying to think. YouTube is something I started using when I was like 14, 15, I think, or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny to watch it grow from like, it was almost exclusively for like 2 years of my life. YouTube was like watching fat people fall, and like that was all that was on there. You got on there, it was like, we used to watch skate videos, like people falling. And that was like pretty much all YouTube was good for. I think some people would probably watch porn on it, and that was about it. But now there's like actual people who just dedicate their lives to making stuff on YouTube, and it wasn't like that, for a long time.
I have my little cousin. She'll walk around with headphones on and her iPad and just scroll through YouTube and watch music videos and different stuff. Like, it is definitely replacing TV for a younger generation. Not completely, but it's definitely, it's cutting into that heavily.
Yeah. Well, it's just funny to have watched it, went from what it was,
Yeah.
from whence it came. It's like it was just a bunch of stupid stuff.
well,
and
it
now
was home videos and then just blatant copyright violations.
and people editing videos of Windows Movie Maker, which I know
A
you
lot
hate.
of that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go look at some of my personal account stuff, I mean,
Oh yeah, we got the
what you
skate video
have,
that's
but-
like that. But it's just funny though because it's always like, I don't know.
But that's
We're
also
getting-
when
that's another story.
that's
for
when we were
another time.
young and didn't have multiple hundreds of dollars for editing software.
Yeah.
But like,
Did you see VidCon was held this weekend too for essentially YouTubers and stuff?
yeah,
It's like a big convention. So
I
why
think
weren't we
it's
invited?
I think it's safe to say that none of us thought too highly of Children of the Corn since we're talking about YouTube video
all right,
bloggers.
yeah. So
Yeah, we should get back on track.
to go from children of the YouTube age to children of the corn.
Yeah, I think with Children of the Corn, if you just have a big Stephen King appreciation and you just love watching everything that he's associated with, watch it.
Oh yeah.
But
It's
if
on
you're
Netflix,
just
won't cost
Yeah.
anything.
if you have an Netflix account, you just want something to watch, or somebody that's not. If you like the horror movies and people don't really like them, but they watch them, this is one that's kind of neutral. Like it's not going to keep anybody up. You're not going to lose any sleep over it. I haven't watched it, but it's a movie.
What if Malachi haunts your dreams?
And Moonface Kid might. I don't know.
I want to see the one where Isaac returns because he's obviously going to be older and much older than 19.
No,
the
Dead Kid in the
666
Trunk. I think it is. Let me look. Yes, Children of the Corn, 666 Isaac's Return, which is the sixth film. Yeah, but,
How on the nose?
yeah, and the last one was Children of the Corn Genesis, which came out in 2011.
which sounds like a prequel, right?
Yeah, which is just funny though that, and of course, Sci-Fi Channel did an original too in 2009.
Yeah. So
I really think we should just do a podcast on sci-fi original movies.
well, it depends. If it's something that someone made that ended up there because of distribution stuff, that's one thing. If it's something they themselves created from beginning to end, that's a different thing.
I have another. I have ATTU verse, and I have some. It might have been the what was the network you were talking about earlier?
All right.
El Rey. I might have been El Rey. I was watching it, and it's like or maybe it's Chillers, what it's called.
yeah.
and it's just exclusively like bad horror movies.
Yeah.
And they played this one on loop the other day where people went, driving a boat in the ocean. They jumped off the boat and didn't put the ladder down. And it's like there's like 5 sequels to that, and it's all the same. Where like
are they trying to get back in the boat?
Yeah, they're trying to get back on the boat, like a yacht.
How low stakes can you get?
Yeah, it's like they jump off, and that was like, and the sad thing is, it's like because I didn't watch one of them. Like when I leave a TV on for my dog, so I just turned that on and left it. And I left, and it was like number 1, and I came back like 8 hours later because I was doing a bunch of stuff that day. And it was like on 5, and the first one was people straying off of a boat trying to climb back on, and the 5th one was that. And it's like, you know, if they can do that and people can fund that movie. Why, you know, we could come up with that's like the worst idea ever, and people funded it. And it's supposedly based on a true story.
You know, we got a Hallmark movie shooting in town right now.
Yeah.
Range. And I was thinking about the Lifetime Network because that was on the other day. I was flipping through channels. I wish there was a horror, you know, sci-fi is kind of this, but a horror station that was like Lifetime where they just churned out, you know, original movies all the time. Because even if they weren't great, if they would just have a consistent amount of gore and just some, you know, inventive concepts or whatever, like, I would turn that on and just have it on the background all the time.
Yeah, because another thing, too, is you never, like, a lot of there's just good ideas that can happen, too. Like, somebody might have a good idea and just do a low-budget version of it, and then it might get picked up and turn into something better. Yeah. You know? Which that would be kind of a cool idea for, you know, somebody to make a channel like that. But, and I was also watching on Chiller, some of the stuff's so bad, but there's like a haunted house, and they're trying to move furniture in, and the only way they could live in the house is without furniture, and it make the ghost mad. I'm like, why do people watch this? Like, the thing was, the ghost got mad if you put furniture in the house. It's like, this is a movie.
So they just sit Indian style on the floor.
Yeah, and it was fine, but they brought furniture in, and just all hell broke.
So to talk about really, really bad horror films, has anyone else seen? It's on IMDb. It says Demon Island, but I always remembered it as Pinata Survival Island.
Yes, no. I've watched that.
There is a demon trapped inside a pinata, and it's got the guy that played Xander from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Jamie Presley. Yeah, and it is a terrible, terrible movie.
The only reason why I remember that is because it was on the Sci-Fi Channel one time when I was on vacation, like on loop.
Yeah. So once
Sci-Fi's
again,
good for a lot of laughs.
Yeah, or maybe it was AMC. I can't remember. Either one. It was on one of them.
That is not an American movie classic, sir.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff they have on there. It's not an American.
That actually might have been on like their October horror movies things.
Well, I think it was the Sci-Fi Channel because then the next movie I watched is like a Killer Yeti. So I feel like that was probably the Sci-Fi Channel.
But once again, to take it back to the Children of the Corn.
Yeah, we keep.
So what's some highlights from this film? What's some good things about it?
So
and could it be remade today and not be totally goofy?
That lady from the Terminator is probably the highlight.
But they took her character and she had no agency of her own. She got She got kidnapped by tweens and kids and had to be rescued and was just hung up on a cornstalk.
And in the original short story. Apparently it's about like a fighting couple who's like fighting a lot and stuff, and to try to save their marriage or whatever, they're going on vacation together. And then while all this is happening, they're like fighting with each other, and she wants to like go to the next town, and he wants to, kind of like in this, he wants to try to find somebody there, and they have a fight, and so he takes her keys and her purse and goes into like the church, So it's like there would have been some great drama there, but they're just such a boring couple. Like everything's hunky dory, and
he's
there's no drama there.
And he's an intern for a doctor.
Yeah, he's going to be a doctor. What kind of medical training? I don't know.
So I guess if we're talking about highlights, so one of the highlights would be Linda Hamilton's little dance singing number at the beginning, because that was just entertaining. I mean, it wasn't like anything super sexy. It was just like, oh, that was fun. Then at the end, when Isaac's kind of like the zombie monster guy, and he comes after Malachi, like that's kind of interesting, although that was barely touched on the entire time.
Yeah.
Like I do kind of like that they just reference he walks behind the rose and didn't actually make a big thing and show him. But at the same time, not a whole lot happened.
I like the solution of how they burned up the corn, even though it's like, I guess they got it from the passages that kid just happened to have with him, and it was highlighted or circled. That was kind of a cool solution, but it's like unclear if that's really the problem, the corn, Like, I mean, I guess it is, but why do they think that?
It's like the jerk was like, they're after these cans.
They're like burning the corn. Idiot, it's not the corn, it's Satan. And the corn also, has a little bit of Evil Dead in it, where it attacks the dude.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because it's not even really hurting him. He's just like, oh, it's corn on me. And they just cut it off. Like,
Well, maybe he's a big anti-ethanol corn fuel.
You know, another thing too
guy.
that reminds me of his leg in the cornfield scene from
Signs.
Signs, yeah.
yeah.
So
They should just edit that in.
And another thing too, this film, it doesn't have a lot, not saying it needs to have like dread, but it's so bright and it's like a beautiful day that this all takes place on. Like it just like, oh man, it looks like a nice little town, a nice time of day, you know, a nice summer day. Like the sky's like beautifully blue and everything until the end when it gets night, or it just turns night like that. Like it's all of a sudden it's dusk and then it's nighttime.
And it's not like they're like doing some example or like some, storytelling technique where it's like, beautiful day, but terrible things happening. And it's,
Yeah, I did not get that out of it.
it was
It's not ironic. Yeah.
it was just probably a cheap production. It's cheaper to shoot when it's daylight.
Which that's on Wikipedia. It says it was $800,000 budget, so less than $1 million, and it made a little over 14.5. So
pretty good.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
What? Like
And that's in the
17 times
80s.
its budget.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that this movie was successful just because it was, at least an interesting take on a storyline. It was something that, hadn't been done before. And it had somebody who's I don't know if she was a bankable star, but she was recognizable.
Before Terminator.
Pre-Terminator.
Yeah, kids killing. Stephen King, kids killing. I can see why it would have a lot of appeal. In the
Yeah,
box.
because you got to figure another too. That was Stephen King. And that was like in his reign, like in his reign of horror movies. That was kind of his time. So it makes sense that, because I'm sure anything that they put out with Stephen King's name on it, because there was like 10 years where everything he put out was like real,
Yeah,
was
this was 84, and at least The Shining was 1980. So
yeah. And there was other stuff that came out around that time period, years before and years after. So it was like right in his main time, So it seemed anything with his name on it probably would have done relatively decent. But to me, though, it's just after watching that movie, to see that there's eight of them in that franchise just seems like, really?
Yeah, so I think this is a series that we're never going to come back to again.
But it just blows my mind. Like I talked
I'm
about
curious to watch the other ones now, just based on
just to see how they are. But like,
okay, let's see where this train takes us.
but like this movie is such a lackluster movie, and like My Bloody Valentine, which came out around the same time in the 80s. While it was a slasher and it's completely different, it was more like Halloween or Friday 13th. That movie never got a sequel, and it was like way better than this. And it just blows my mind that how like that movie in that time period didn't get a sequel, but this movie with not much of anything going on and really it got 8 sequels, or 7 sequels.
I want to see the Predator 2, Children of the Corn, which is the Urban Harvest one, where apparently it takes place in Chicago.
All they meant like
yeah.
Charlize Theron is in that one.
Holy duty.
I've got to watch that one now because part 2 is not on Netflix, but like a bunch of them are. 3 is one of them that's on there.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like Predator, Predator.
No,
2,
Predator
the movie.
2 because it takes place in the city,
Yeah.
and now it's called Urban Harvest.
Okay, so actually, when I said that Linda Hamilton would have been well known at the time, I take that back. She would not have been well known. And looking through her filmography, the highlights were just like Terminator 1 and 2. And then
Hey,
a few other
those
things
were
here and
good
there.
movies.
And
No, those
Children of
were-
the Corn.
I mean,
Children
like,
of the Corn.
Terminator 2 was great. Terminator 1 was great. But, so I think we can say that we strained to come up with things that were great about this movie or good. So,
But I laughed through some of it. Like I didn't. It wasn't that boring, and I didn't like regret watching it. It's just like not a good film, but it's still enjoyable on a certain level.
and like if you have like I always kind of look at things like if you have a bunch of friends that you want to have over to watch horror movies, but they're not like super horror buffs, this would probably not be the movie to show.
Yeah.
Because to a modern audience, especially if they're younger, you'll probably just get people kind of like, huh.
Unless you want to laugh at it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not going to inspire any dread.
Yeah, you can just every time they don't take the body out of the trunk after they put him in there, just take a shot. So that way it would just be fucking
Every time
hammered.
you see a trunk with a dead kid in it.
Yeah. It is, take a shot.
Every time Malachi says Outlander,
Yeah, that's another one.
I hate
that's
him.
the official House by the Video Store drinking game. Every time you see the trunk when the kid's in there, Every time Malachi says Outlander. And let's see, we can think of one more. Every time you see a piece of corn.
Yeah.
Corn stuck somewhere specifically, not just the cornfield. Corn stuck somewhere or made into something.
Do they have like a corn like shiv? You know, like,
Yes, they have the corn knife.
Yeah, they have a corn knife. Yeah, they do.
Well, stab this
I think we need to make, we're talking about having stuff for the website to sell. We need to have like Children of the Corn apparel and just make Children of the Corn earrings, like corn on the cobs, and
Make a shirt. Make a shirt where the sleeve has like the corn stalk, like instead of having like ruffles or lace or whatever, you just have like corn leaves and stalks on the
the
sleeves.
socks are just like all the yellow part of the corn, the edible part, the pattern.
Have a shirt where the front is just a cob of corn, and then the back is like a trunk, and then like it's transparent. You can see like the dead body of a child in it with a slit throat.
Yeah, hopefully I can catch him. We should get on that. Or, he could do socks that look like corn. I don't know.
So if anybody really loves this movie and we've just shit on it, like,
Sorry.
I think it's one of those.
Not sorry.
It's one of those movies. If you didn't see it in the time, it's kind of hard to watch it now. Like, I always try to make compromises for movies, like understand like where it came from, what the influences were, what it influenced.
But there's a lot you have to forgive this movie for.
Put it like this: it's not Terminator, so
Yeah. It's not like, and there's two, like, I haven't looked at what other stuff the director did. Like, it wasn't an auteur getting, their groove and kind of getting their career off the ground. It was just kind of a movie that didn't have much of a vision.
Yeah, and he didn't direct Terminator, so there's two things that are going on with this movie, and there's a lot of corn.
Like, how different would this movie have been if it was directed by
Rob Zombie.
Well, they're just licking all, like, they come across corn. Not only do they hold like the corn item, they lick and go.
I actually want to see Rob Zombie's Children of the Corn.
Yeah, I would watch it because everybody would. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I do want to see that TV remake though, just to see how they handled it, the sci-fi one or whatever.
Yeah.
But Sci-Fi did a bunch of Stephen King remakes. I think they did. I know they did Carrie. They did this. I'm pretty sure they did like a Shining remake. There's a lot of them they did at one point in time, or maybe it was a couple years span where they did a bunch of different like Stephen King remakes.
So The Shining was in like the 90s.
Oh, maybe it wasn't
So
then.
97, right?
Yeah, so it doesn't say what network it was on. So yeah, so the guy that directed Children of the Corn, Fritz Kirsch, didn't really direct anything else of note. He directed Tough Turf, Winners Take All,
So some sport movies.
Under the Board, Fatal Charm, 2 episodes of the 1990 to 93 Swamp Thing TV series, which I actually do remember. Into the Sun, which I don't know what that is. The Stranger, which based on the cover art looks really bad. Surveillance, The Hunt from 2006 was the last thing. So not the launch of like a big career. So any final thoughts we want to cover on Children of the Corn before we finish out?
I enjoyed watching it just because of the ridiculousness of it, and because I hadn't really seen it before, aside from in passing on television. And I'm so curious to see what the other ones are like. But that's just a lot of time dedicated.
Yeah, because there's 7 of them that you have to watch now.
So you could spend your entire week watching Children of the Corn and then screen the TV series and try to justify what you did with your time.
So a good synopsis of this or whatever would be like, it is Trolls 2 but darker and not as enjoyable.
Well,
And there's no milk or eggs in it.
I would say it's not the category of so bad it's good.
No,
it's
no,
in the
I'm saying,
category. It's more in the category of decent.
It's so bad. No.
I would say the category it's in is like, I guess, like decently executed, but doesn't stand the test of time very well.
Yeah, and because I think there are some there's some cool little scenes in it and stuff like that, but the whole a lot of it's just a little bit ridiculous.
Well, the fact that I didn't even think about it, they put the kid in the trunk and never got him out. It's like
he's
it's
dead.
Yeah, but still, the
It's
car is
just
sitting
funny.
there. The car is still in that town today with that dead kid in it. you know, and nobody's ever
Corn
got it.
and a dead kid.
Yeah,
Like,
and then-
what
and a
happened to
dead
this
kid.
car?
And then when they're walking away, like when Bert and Vicky are walking away with the kids, Job and Sarah, they joke about them living with them for a day or a couple days or a week.
Yeah, that was odd too.
It's like, yeah, so you're not just going to adopt these kids. You're going to be a doctor, dude. You keep talking about it. You
Yeah,
can
they're
afford
being
it.
a douche. Like, maybe you'll live on the streets. Maybe you'll live with us. I don't know.
You want me to adopt you, the guy that's about to become a doctor? Come on.
He's like, you
And
know
that's
what?
how the movie ends.
He's like, you'll be really funny if you go to a group home and you experience sodomy. I mean, come on. maybe not. It's just,
Maybe you won't get to eat for 2
After these
weeks. I don't
kids'
know.
parents had already been murdered, and then he's like poking fun at them.
yeah. I mean, they are incredibly well adjusted to have had their parents cut down in the case of Job right in front of them. So
Yeah.
I wonder if he becomes a magician.
The kid actor that was Isaac, he very much seemed like he was from the classically trained theater, and he did a good job. I think he held up his end of the bargain. I mean, he's still a kid actor, but
yeah.
and especially when he turns into like the undead version of himself. Obviously, they did some voice modification, but he wasn't bad. I don't think in the film.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, you know, I don't know how a current day version of this would go because I feel like they would just get a bunch of really annoying kids in it. Yeah. But you don't really know if you get any more annoying than, I always want to say Nikolai. So let's call him Nikolai. I don't know if you get any more annoying than the M kid names.
Malachi?
So the guy,
I think they need to get all kids from the Disney Channel on those Disney Channel shows and make a Children of the Corn with
Well,
them.
how about we just go and we just use the Disney Channel kids that are like in their 20s and 30s now, so we can use like Justin Timberlake and like, oh shit, Ryan from Drive. I can't think of his last name.
Gosling.
Yeah, we'll just use Ryan Gosling, Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears. Just use them.
So the guy that played Isaac when the movie was made would have been, he was born in 59, so he would have been like 20, 24, 25 when they were filming it.
Wow.
So, in
So
real
no
life-
wonder he was a decent actor.
Yeah.
He wasn't a kid.
He looked like, he looked to me like somebody who just kind of had like a young look. So
Yeah.
he probably got,
Frankie Muniz.
he probably got carded every time he went somewhere.
No, he's like, what's his name? From MTV?
Danny Trejo.
No. No, Danny Trejo definitely doesn't look like a kid. What's his name?
Andy Milonakis.
Yeah, Andy Milonakis. They can make him be the evil leader in Children of the Corn.
I got like the Danny Trejo version of him being the 17-year-old kid.
Like, yeah. So I think we can bring the
One thing real quick. If that guy does have, that thing where it makes him always look young, that's an interesting concept to bring him back for part 6. If he still looks pretty young, like on the cover he looked older, and on IMDb he looks a little older. But if he still looked pretty young and he was supposed to be like a kid that came back, like they lucked, you know what I mean? They lucked out or thought ahead on that one.
So the reason I'm laughing is I'm on his IMDb page. If you just go to his page and you click on like the images they have available for him. So let's see. So if you go 1, 2, 3, if you go like the third picture in, just look at it and tell me if you're not laughing. You can do this. We don't have to do this right now, but if you're at home and you look, that's what I was laughing about. There's a picture of him holding a cat with a really weird look on his face.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so if you're listening to this, go look at that.
What's his name again?
He looks like normally aged in these other pictures.
John Franklin's. If you just look at Children of the Corn, you can find this page from there. And
I
like,
think that's my new Facebook profile picture, the height shot of him. Or maybe, yeah. Is that from, Highway to Heaven, Michael Landon.
yeah, so
A new Facebook picture.
I mean, he looks relatively normal in these other pictures, but so I think we can wrap up the discussion of Children of the Corn. As always, if you like the podcast, you can go to iTunes and give us a rating. I'm assuming you just saw that, Derek. And I just wonder who chose that picture to be on his IMDb.
That's the one promotional still from Highway to Heaven. It's him with an awkward smile on his cat with Michael Landon.
But you can always go on iTunes and give us a rating. You can always go to housebythevideostore.com to see all the things we're doing. You can follow us on social media at facebook.com/HBTVS, on Twitter at HBTVS_official, and that's also the username we have on Instagram and Vine. We also have a House by the Video Store Vimeo account, so you can find us on there. We also... Is there other social networks that we're on?
I don't know.
We're thinking about...
I'm saving this image of him to my desktop right now.
Hey, just an addition. John Franklin was cousin It in the Addams Family.
Oh.
Yeah.
But now I'm all off track here.
All the social media links that we know of are on their website.
Yes, because we've tossed
Also,
around.
can you mention what we were tagged on Instagram?
That wasn't anything to do with us?
Yeah, so we had sent out a site post and some social media post a couple weeks ago or last week because Scarecrow Video was doing was it the Swapping Dead? It's like a VHS and like horror movie themed swap meet. Mm-hmm. And we had just made a simple post saying what the date was. Corey had written it up about something about the store, what was going to be there, and just if you're in the area in Seattle to check it out on August 1st. And then oddly, they tagged a tweet yesterday when the event was going on, saying that HBTVS official, which is our Twitter,
I think
account,
it was they tagged us on Instagram, right?
Well, they tagged us on both. I just saw it on Twitter.
I didn't see that.
So on Twitter, it's like HBTVS is hosting a super sick hashtag only VHS swap meet today, starting at 2 p.m. Get down here. So I guess that was like a mistake or something because we had nothing to do with that.
Hey, but if they want to
give us credit,
promote us, go right ahead. We had to do no work for that.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what that was about. I mean, we appreciate any support or shares, but I don't know that we want to be associated with something without knowing exactly what happened when it went down. Like, what if there's bad experiences? People are like, well, House by Video Store sucks. They ruined my day.
Yeah.
Or if it turned out to be like a child pornography ring and it's got blamed.
We're not Jared and Subway.
Yeah, Jared.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
We do not want to get sued by Jared.
We
Subway
do.
money after us.
He's gonna be listening to this, you motherfuckers, and then we get sued.
Well, you do know
Thanks a lot.
that he has AIDS, right?
No,
Like personal assistance, like AIDS.
Oh,
referencing a South Park joke
I was
there.
like, shit. Jared just got into it deep.
No, that was a joke on South Park. Everybody asked him how he lost so much weight, and he's like, I have AIDS. And then, they're like, oh, you have the disease? And it was like, no, you just have personal assistance, like AIDS, AIDS. So that was...
Oh, just real quick. One time I went to a cookout, and somebody made lemonade, but they put lemon AIDS, and they spelled it lemon, AIDS, and I would refuse to drink it.
It's like, yeah...
It was lemon dash AIDS. And it's like, why would you do that? And I guess that's how you spelled it. I don't know, but I did not drink that lemonade.
All right, so back to the closing plugs.
Hey, that could be a movie plot.
Yes. So if you want to find us on social media, not lemon AIDS, you can find me on Twitter at will_droid.
I'm at Blevin Sean on Twitter.
I've got to that point in my life on Instagram where I almost post animal pictures all the time. So if you're interested in like dogs swimming or rabbits and cats, you can check me out on Meadow World Derek.
And just to be clear, he does not have a farm.
I do not have a farm. I live in like not very much land, and it's sad.
But that'll bring this episode of the House by the Video Store podcast to a close. Thanks for listening.